Did you know that a freak hailstorm gave us the flavor cookies and cream?
Amazing, isn't it?
That a Good Humor franchise was once targeted by the mob?
8 of his trucks were blown up.
Or that Ben & Jerry almost missed their calling?
Our first thought was to make bagels.
From 31 flavors
31, count them, 31.
to Fudgy the Whale.
It's a beautiful product.
From ice cream bars to $1 million taste buds.
The gold spoon is part of the equipment of keeping a clean palate.
There's no getting away from it. Americans love ice cream.
I want a chocolate ice cream cone.
But it's been a rocky road to get the flavors frozen,
It's a cooling treat for summer.
the quality controlled,
And this is the best that any ice cream ever is, right off the production line.
and the technology on track. It's a story of daring dairymen, intrepid flavor pioneers, and everyone's favorite scoopable sensation. On American Eats, ice cream. This is ice cream making in the 21st century. Three 3,000-gallon stainless steel tanks mixing 54,000 pounds of ingredients per hour. 29-foot-tall spiral hardeners freezing 525 pints per minute at 40 degrees below zero. A plant that produces 200,000 gallons of frozen fantasy a day.
We work hard to keep up with the demand.
Americans have always loved ice cream.
It's my favorite.
From molten marshmallow sundaes to hand-dipped chocolate bars, it's the ultimate icy indulgence.
Too many banana splits could give you a tummy.
As a nation, Americans eat 48 billion scoops of it a year. That's over $20 billion spent on scoops, sundaes, bars, bricks, and brain freeze. More than the annual budget of NASA.
Ice cream is part of my experience. It's part of the experience of most Americans, that ice cream is happiness.
It's a comfort food. You've had a bad day, a bowl of ice cream. You've had a good day, a bowl of ice cream.
The thing that I think makes ice cream the quintessential American food is it's so democratic. It's something that everybody, regardless of how much they make or where they live or what they do, everybody can enjoy it.
But ice cream wasn't always so egalitarian. Before the 1840s, ice cream in America was only for the rich.
The first written record we have of ice cream in the United States happened in 1744 when the governor of Maryland had a dinner, and one of the attendees, William Black, wrote about a rarity in his diary.
The rarity was some fine ice cream with strawberries, which the guests ate, Black wrote, most deliciously.
I mean, if you wanted to knock the socks off your visitors, you served them ice cream. And then everyone would go home and be absolutely, totally amazed.
There's a lot of reasons why ice cream was, for centuries, a privilege of the ruling class. One of which is the ingredients to make ice cream were hard to come by and expensive. It was very hard to come by ice, no refrigeration to keep it cold. It was only available certain times of the year. Sugar, refined sugar, was also very prized.
But even as the ingredients for ice cream became more readily available, making ice cream was so labor-intensive that the average family didn't have the time or the servants to do it.
It would take almost somebody's half day of work just to make ice cream.
The process involved taking a large pot and filling it with salt and ice. Then a smaller pot was placed inside, and the ingredients to make the ice cream, sugar, cream, and flavoring, were added. By conduction, the salt and ice mixture extracted heat from the ice cream mix, causing it to freeze. To make sure it didn't turn into a solid block required real elbow grease.
You had to scrape the sides down. You needed somebody with strong arms to chip all the ice for you. You had to make sure that it was getting, mixed well before you could serve it. So it was a very special thing to have.
Ice cream may have remained an elite treat forever if it hadn't been for the inventive spirit of one woman. Her name was Nancy Johnson.
Considering how significant Nancy Johnson is to the history of ice cream, it's really a shame we don't know more about her.
It's true, Johnson is an elusive ice cream icon. Not one image of her exists. But her legacy lives on in this 1843 patent for a revolutionary new and useful improvement in the art of producing artificial ices.
At that time, it was unusual for women to patent devices. As a matter of fact, the patent office kept addressing her mail to Mr. Nancy Johnson, and she had to write them a letter and ask them to please address her properly.
Mrs. Johnson's ice cream freezer was simple but revolutionary.
What was revolutionary was a removable crank and paddles that could move the ice cream mix around.
Thanks to the hand crank freezer, ice cream could be made faster, smoother, and more affordable.
And as soon as other people started to see how many ice cream freezers there were selling, everybody wanted to jump on the bandwagon. And so in a relatively short period of time, there were 70 improvements to Nancy Johnson's invention that made her already good invention even better.
Over the next several decades, the market for ice cream freezers boomed. Manufacturers offered brand-name models like the Snowball, the Gem, and the White Mountain, which boasted a patented triple motion and no zinc in contact with the ice cream. The ice cream maker became a standard requirement of housewifery.
Your typical American middle to upper class housewife, it was what was expected you would have.
With ice cream no longer an extravagance, sellers began popping up all over the country.
At about the mid-1800s, you began to get a lot of street vendors selling ice cream, particularly in the summer.
One particular vendor would command a lot of attention. Long before the Good Humor Man, there was the Hokey Pokey Man.
The itinerant ice cream sellers were mostly Italian. Well, they were known as Hokey Pokey Man, and it probably comes from the Italian echo and poco, which means like here is a little. And they sold it in penny licks. You licked it there and then, and you gave it back, the glass back to the vendor, who then went on using it.
What you would do, you'd walk up to a street vendor and order, in this case, a half cent of ice cream or a halfpenny. You can tell by the depth of the bowl. This was probably a 1 penny dish, and this was probably a 3 cent dish.
Some of the ice cream these people made was terrible. They put chalk in the milk to get it whiter. They put things like turnip and other vegetables in to bulk the quantity up.
Penny licks weren't just unsavory. In an era when the majority of deaths were caused by communicable diseases, they were unsafe.
These were ultimately, certainly in England, were outlawed in the 1920s for spreading tuberculosis, because these things never got cleaned.
But penny licks were on the decline even before they were outlawed, because by the 1890s, ice cream had a new and improved edible dish. The cone.
I want a chocolate ice cream cone.
The ice cream cone is, when you think about it, an ingenious invention. It's like the perfect edible container for ice cream.
From an ecological point of view, it's absolutely brilliant. There is no waste, there is no rubbish. You eat the whole thing.
Historical evidence suggests that the ice cream cone was around 200 years ago.
We recently came across a print made in 1807 by a man called Debucor of a cafe in Paris. In the corner is a lady sitting eating an ice cream out of an ice cream cone. That is the earliest reference we have seen to it.
And throughout the 1890s, various forms of edible ice cream holders were in use. But the cone's real coming out party was the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis.
At the St. Louis World's Fair, there were numerous ice cream vendors, and there were also numerous vendors selling a waffle-like cookie called Zalibia. And there was one waffle vendor, Ernest Hamwee, who was next to an ice cream vendor. And the lore has it that the ice cream vendor ran out of cups, and he said, "Here, take one of my rolled waffle cookies and put the ice cream on top."
Whether the story is true or not, at least 4 other people at the fair claim their cone was the first. By the end of the exhibition, cones had made their mark.
There was no question it popularized the ice cream cone because of pictures, because of people seeing it there, because it was a very big event.
Of course, another big event in ice cream history was the invention of the scooper. The first one didn't look like the scoopers of today. The cone-shaped device was patented by William Kluel of Reading, Pennsylvania in 1878 as an improvement in ice cream measure and mold.
The way this worked was a two-handed operation. You scoop the ice cream, you turn the key, and you put it on a plate.
More than 240 scoopers were patented within the next 60 years in all shapes and sizes. By the turn of the 20th century, with the scoop and the cone in place, ice cream had achieved its iconic American look. And to sell this new national treat to the masses, there was another American enterprise: the soda fountain.
The soda fountain was absolutely critical to the development of the ice cream industry.
I think it's hard for Americans today to imagine how important the soda fountain was to Main Street culture in the early 1900s. They were like a Starbucks or a McDonald's.
With gleaming countertops and inventive soda jerks, the fountain served up ice cream in every form.
Part of the responsibility of the soda jerks was to always be coming up with new things. And so thanks to their ingenuity, we have things like banana splits, milkshakes, ice cream sodas, phosphates, all of those things that are such a yummy way to enjoy ice cream. They all originated at the soda fountain.
Soda fountains gave a further boost to a wholesale ice cream industry that had begun in 1851 with a milk dealer in Maryland named Jacob Fussell.
Jacob Fussell ran a dairy business, and he would have cream left over. So he started making ice cream, and it proved to be such a popular item that he opened ice cream factories in Washington, D.C., New York City, and several other places.
Others followed, like Hood's Old Fashioned in Boston, Hydrox in St. Louis, and Breyers in Philadelphia. By the 1920s, Americans had a lot of ice cream brands to choose from.
The 1920s really were the golden age of ice cream.
And the time was right for a frosty parade of inventions and novelties.
He fitted out a truck with the bells off the family sleigh.
The birth of the Eskimo pie.
Intense frenzy for it.
And the unknown dangers of being an ice cream man. Want some ice cream?
500 million gallons.
From flavor burst soft serve to space age Dippin' Dots. These days, the hottest cool treats aim to put their own distinctive twist on one of America's favorite foods. In fact, Americans have been inventing new ways to enjoy ice cream for decades, going back to the Roaring '20s. Prohibition gave a boost to ice cream's growing popularity by pushing many bored drinkers toward a sweeter vice.
Well, once Prohibition was enacted, the already strong hold that soda fountains had in American culture grew even stronger.
Ice cream vendors and soda fountains pushed their product more aggressively. Even beer makers got in on the act.
All these breweries who were suddenly out of business, almost all of them turned to making ice cream. Prohibition just bolstered what was already an enormous stronghold that ice cream had on American consciousness.
And on the American wallet. Between 1920 and 1930, ice cream production in the United States rose 71%, from 148 million gallons to 254 million gallons.
The 1920s really were the golden age of ice cream. It was the chance when ice cream had really become so entrenched as part of American culture. It was just the quintessential American food.
It was also the age of the ice cream novelty. It was the decade that brought us ice cream Dixie cups, the classic song, "I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream." And the first big ice cream novelty item, invented by a Latin teacher from Ottawa, Iowa, named Christian Nelson.
After school, he operated a candy store. And one day, a child came in and ordered ice cream. And then the kid changed his mind and he wanted a candy bar.
That gave Nelson an idea. Why not create a treat that would combine both? Ice cream covered in hard chocolate.
So he started experimenting. He discovered that he had a problem getting chocolate to adhere to ice cream. Then a candy salesman told him to add cocoa butter to the chocolate because that would have it adhere to the ice cream.
Nelson heated the chocolate to around 90 degrees Fahrenheit and quickly dipped in his frozen vanilla bars. He watched as the gooey chocolate hardened into a tasty shell and knew he was onto something.
And he started marketing this ice cream bar that he called the Ice Cream Bar.
Eventually, he would change the name to something frostier. The Eskimo Pie.
The Eskimo Pie was introduced in 1921, and by 1922, Americans were consuming 1 million bars a day. The demand for the chocolate to make these Eskimo Pie bars was so great that it single-handedly lifted the country of Ecuador, a major cocoa exporter, out of depression just by the whole demand for these Eskimo Pie bars. Intense frenzy for it.
The product became even more popular when it was sold out of this state-of-the-art thermal jug chilled with dry ice. Though the company patented the treat, it was unable to stave off a flood of imitators. Other copycats adopted the concept, but not the name, like the Elite Chocolate-Coated Baseball, launched in 1922 with a $250,000 ad campaign featuring Yankee slugger Babe Ruth. The Klondike Bar debuted the same year.
The best is yet to come.
But one of these novelty products would rise above all the others, all because of a little stick of wood.
In Youngstown, Ohio, there was a confectioner by the name of Harry Burt. He had had some local success making a lollipop called the Good Humor Lollipop. And after he saw how popular the Eskimo Pie was, he was trying to figure out how he could come up with something that would compete in his market with the Eskimo Pie.
Burt came up with a chocolate-covered vanilla bar similar to the Eskimo Pie. But when he handed it over to his daughter for a taste, he watched as she quickly became covered in melted chocolate.
So one of his other children suggested, why don't you use one of the sticks from your lollipops and put it in the chocolate bar so that when you eat it, you don't get chocolate all over yourself. And hence, the first ice cream bar on a stick was invented.
Burt named his novelty the Good Humor Ice Cream Sucker. It was the new, clean, convenient way to eat ice cream. He got a patent and a great marketing idea.
He came up with the idea of selling this Good Humor bar door to door, and he fitted out a truck with the bells off the family sleigh.
The Good Humor truck would become a symbol of sweet possibility for generations of children to come.
The Good Humor Man, of course, was fantastic, because what you're doing is you're taking the product round to the customer, or you're taking it to the end of his street.
They had a manual for how to behave. It had everything from changing your socks every day to how to be a courteous driver. Anybody who did not follow the exact uniform and code of ethics for being a Good Humor driver was fired. And it really made Good Humor wildly successful.
But driving a Good Humor truck could be a dangerous job.
One of the earliest franchisees was Tom Brimmer, and he brought a new Good Humor franchise and took it to Chicago in 1929. Well, shortly thereafter, once he started to try his business, the mob showed up and wanted $5,000 for protection. And he said, no way.
And he upped his insurance policy.
What ended up happening is a few weeks later, 8 of his trucks were blown up. But the resulting publicity really drove the brand of Good Humor into the national spotlight and really helped it take hold on a national level.
As Time magazine put it, the Good Humor Man became better known than the fire chief, more welcome than the mailman, and more respected than the corner cop. While the 1920s were a prolific time for ice cream novelties, the same could not be said for the creation of new flavors.
We really were not expanding flavors in the 20s as much as we were expanding the variety of ways that you could experience ice cream.
As a result, the market was dominated by solid flavors such as chocolate, strawberry, and the most basic of all.
Would it be vanilla?
70% of all ice cream mixes are going to start out as vanilla. It's the perfect canvas to add any other flavors to.
You could do so much with it. You could do the sundaes, you could do the chocolate sauce and the banana splits.
But one company decided to do something even more with the ever-versatile vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. In 1929, Edie's Grand, a small mom-and-pop manufacturer run by partners Joseph Edie and William Dreyer, created one of the first combination ice cream flavors.
It's a milk chocolate ice cream with miniature marshmallows and walnuts.
They called it Rocky Road. This simple mix wasn't so simple to execute because the marshmallows needed to be hand-cut.
Back in the 20s, all they made was the large fireside marshmallow. And so there was Mrs. Dreyer's and Mrs. Edie, and they had their scissors, and they were cutting those marshmallows into bite sizes.
Their labor paid off, and Rocky Road went on to become one of America's most popular ice cream flavors.
And then more and more people tried everything under the sun in terms of flavors.
By the 1930s, Howard Johnson restaurants offered an impressive 28 flavors. And then there was the ice cream dream team of brothers-in-law Burt Baskin and Irvin Robbins. They came up with the idea of 31 flavors, one for every day of the month.
You can imagine back in the day when there was maybe one or two to choose from for most products, to go someplace where you could have 31 flavors was mouth-watering. It was like having a smorgasbord you could have any of these flavors. Wow.
They eventually began publishing a monthly calendar with the featured flavors.
You might not try them all, but you sure as heck knew that there was something special there.
Like Cha-Cha-Cha on July 4th, Peppermint Candy on the 8th, and Grape Nuts on July 20th. And then there was always one new flavor of the month.
So run, don't walk to your nearest Baskin-Robbins ice cream store, where the flavor of the month is mint on mint.
Today, there are more than 5,600 Baskin-Robbins stores around the world.
In the first year that Burt Baskin and Irv Robbins had their stores, they served probably close to 120,000 scoops of ice cream. In the last year, we served close to 1 billion scoops of ice cream. So the scale has ramped up substantially over the past 60 years.
From ice cream bars to 31 flavors, Americans have always liked their ice cream served up with a healthy dose of fun. But behind the scenes, serious engineering efforts were also transforming the ice cream industry in ways no one could have imagined. Available in countless flavors and forms, ice cream is without a doubt one of America's coolest foods.
I'll jot that down in my notebook.
But the variety and volume couldn't have been possible without the behind-the-scenes technology that helped shape the industry during ice cream's formative years.
Technology has really changed a lot of what we can do.
One of the most influential inventions was the continuous process freezer that gained popularity in the 30s.
In the 20s, they were still working with the batch freezers. In other words, you would take 2 gallons of liquid mix and pour it into a freezer, and it would whip and churn the ice cream, and you would be making something like 3 gallons then from that 2 gallons of liquid mix.
The continuous freezer means you can make much more ice cream.
It used a brine solution. It was later changed to ammonium. And it would enable an ice cream manufacturer to make ice cream all day long without stopping.
While the continuous process freezer boosted volume, another invention transformed the way ice cream looked and tasted. The story goes that in 1934, a Greek immigrant named Thomas Carvelis was delivering some ice cream when he got a flat tire.
His ice cream started to melt fast, and he needed to figure out what he was going to do with all this ice cream. Luckily for us, he came up with the idea that he'd start to sell this partially melted ice cream to people off the street. It was soft, it wasn't as hard as normal ice cream, and it was a huge hit.
In 1936, Carvelis opened a soft ice cream store in Hartsdale, New York, and named it Carvel. Soft ice cream as a commodity was born. The major difference between soft and hard ice cream is temperature. To make hard ice cream, ingredients are mixed in a freezer at about 21 degrees Fahrenheit. From there, the ice cream goes to a hardening room, where it's frozen at temperatures as low as 40 degrees below zero. Soft ice cream leaves off that last step, so it's warmer.
You're going to get more flavor from that snack, that dessert, at 21 degrees than you will when it's frozen in the package, because of the taste buds. If you put something too cold on the buds, it'll deaden them.
By 1956, the Carvel chain had 500 stores, and by the mid-1960s, there were over 800. With an expanded product line, including the Flying Saucer ice cream sandwich, introduced in 1951. It would later offer cakes with popular characters like Cookie Puss, Fudgy the Whale, and Santa Claus. The latter two used the same mold.
We recommend the whale of a shortcake for a whale of a dad.
Soft ice cream was a hot seller, but it would take other ice cream mavericks to make it royalty.
The other two people who were really significant in making soft serve as popular as it is today were the McCulloughs of Illinois. There was the father, J.F., and his son, Alex.
And they owned a small ice cream plant. And they liked to eat their ice cream when it came out of the freezer before it went to the hardening room.
They figured other people would like it too.
So they used Sherb Noble's drive-in stand in Illinois in 1938, August 4th, and they made an offer really no one could refuse. They let you eat all the ice cream you could for 10 cents. In 2 hours, they had dished out more than 1,600 servings of this soft serve ice cream, and they knew they were onto something.
With a prototype machine that JF named the Queen, the McCulloughs opened their first ice cream store on North Chicago Street in Joliet, Illinois on June 22, 1940. They called it Dairy Queen. Its signature? The soft ice cream swirl at the top of every cone.
Everybody loves the treat with the pearl on top. That's Dairy Queen.
Dairy Queen just absolutely mushroomed after World War II. The product was around when the war started, but there were only a handful of stores. And then after World War II, a lot of veterans came home and they wanted their own business. They wanted to be their own boss, and you could buy a Dairy Queen franchise for very little money. And this was just an ideal family business. You know, mom and the kids and pop could all work in the Dairy Queen.
In 1947, there were 100 Dairy Queens. In 1955, just 8 years later, there were 2,600, all urging the public to
eat, drink, and be merry. Eat, drink, and be merry.
With new innovations and novelties like the Dilly Bar, a soft-serve ice cream bar, Dairy Queen continued its success.
Scrumptious, what happened?
But in 1985, Dairy Queen really hit the jackpot.
The Blizzard, the new treat from Dairy Queen.
We treat you right.
Banking on brand-name candy mix-ins like M&M's and Heath Bars, the soft-serve treat sold 175 million units in its first year alone. Today, there are more than 5,900 Dairy Queens, joining a league of soft-serve options from Tasty Freeze to Mr. Softy. But hard ice cream is just as popular, thanks to a couple of mix-in mavericks.
Before the Grand Cohini, there was not Cherry Garcia, there was not New York Super Fudge Chunk.
Ben, Jerry, and the popularity of premium. Plus, a guy whose taste buds are insured for $1 million. By the 1950s and 60s, there were a lot of ways for Americans to get their ice cream. From a scoop at the corner Baskin-Robbins to a chocolate-coated bar from the local Good Humor truck.
And there were the supermarket half gallons too, which just kept getting made cheaper and cheaper and lower quality and lower quality.
Yes, supermarkets had gotten into the ice cream business.
The Winn-Dixies, the Safeways, the Ralphs, the Luckies, they made 200,000 gallons a day. And they spit it out, and that's what was available in the grocery store.
The $1.99 1-gallon bulk, advertised specifically for the family, became the look of ice cream. It was convenient, it was cheap, and it was easy. But it didn't always taste so good.
Supermarkets were just trying to sell things as inexpensively as they could, and so ice cream makers were trying to make stuff as inexpensively as they could, so they would pump in more and more air and use more and more artificial ingredients. And
it was cold, and that was about all you could say for it. It was cold.
The biggest taste issue was something called overrun.
Overrun is the percentage of air that is added to ice cream. The more air they add to it, the cheaper it is.
Overrun can run from a 0 air, which you really don't want because it would be hard as ice and you couldn't eat it, to hypothetically all air.
Supermarket ice cream had up to 100% overrun, not to mention artificial ingredients and fillers. In 1958, one smart man from the Bronx took a look at the ice cream landscape and decided he could do a lot better.
There was a gentleman by the name of Reuben Mattis, whose family had been a small-scale mom-and-pop ice cream manufacturer. And what Reuben Mattis set out to do was something that at the time was really revolutionary. He set out to make a gourmet, super premium, expensive ice cream.
Mattis did this in 2 ways. First, taste. He used fine, all-natural ingredients and made ice cream with a higher butterfat content, 12% compared to the standard 10%, and much lower overrun, about 40%.
The recipe was fairly similar to many ice cream makers, but it just had the less air. Therefore, it gave a different eating experience to the consumer that had dispendable income that wanted a gourmet experience.
The second step to Mattis's gourmet ice cream strategy, marketing.
Well, I think he recognized that Americans were ready to pay big money and that if it came from Europe, it was going to have a little bit more of a cachet.
So, at the suggestion of his wife, he named the ice cream something that meant nothing but sounded Danish. Haagen-Dazs. He slapped a map of Scandinavia on the containers and sold them by the pint for a pricey 75 cents, about 3 times the cost of supermarket brands.
He only introduced with 3 flavors, but as soon as they started to hit the shelves, they sold like hotcakes.
In 1976, the first Haagen-Dazs scoop shop was opened. Within 5 years, the company had licensed more than 90 locations. The success of Haagen-Dazs spurred on a new super premium trend in gourmet ice cream. In 1977, Ben and Jerry, friends since 7th grade, moved from New York to Vermont and soon got in on the action.
We decided to try to go into business when we were failing at everything else we were trying to do. I was a reject from medical school. Ben had dropped out of school and done various jobs, and we just decided to try to do something fun. And our first thought was to make bagels. So we went down to the used restaurant supply store to price out bagel making equipment, found out it was more money than we had, and so we picked ice cream because we figured it had to be cheaper. It wasn't. It cost the same.
After taking a $5 correspondence course in ice cream making from Penn State, the two took $12,000, a third of it borrowed, and set up shop at a converted gas station in Burlington, Vermont, and got to work. Ben was in charge of flavors.
I have a hard time making decisions. And if the choice for dessert was, well, you can have either ice cream or you can have cookies, I'd say I want both. And I'd smash up the cookies in the ice cream and mush it around, and that's what I had.
Ben adapted that idea to ice cream, and very quickly, Ben and Jerry's made their mark, making flavors no one had ever heard of, like chocolate chip cookie dough.
I mean, before the Grand Kohini, There was not Cherry Garcia. There was not New York Super Fudge Chunk. There were not these really complex combinations of flavors, swirls, chunks with the right amount of crunch and snap. So this is the starting point. And
the Grand Kahini, praise be he.
Ben & Jerry's marketing efforts emphasized fun, pop culture, and social causes.
Ben and I had grown up in the 60s, and you all remember Power to the People. Well, this was going to be ice cream for the people.
But in 1984, when Ben & Jerry's tried to get their packaged ice cream out of their Vermont store and to the people, they faced a problem. Haagen-Dazs' new owner, Pillsbury, didn't want the competition on the supermarket shelves.
The salespeople from Pillsbury went to our distributors and said, you know, if you continue to sell Ben & Jerry's, we're not going to sell you Haagen-Dazs anymore. And so, you know, we were going to get our distribution cut off, which would have put us out of business. There was no way we could have fought them in court, so we decided to take it to the people.
Taking on Pillsbury's beloved corporate symbol, Ben & Jerry made signs, t-shirts, and bumper stickers with the question, "What's the doughboy afraid of?" And a doughboy hotline was set up so people could call in complaints. The negative press did the trick.
Soon there was so much of a backlash. There were so many people that were upset with Pillsbury for trying to put us out of business by strangling our distribution that the doughboy, the most valuable corporate symbol, was getting a black eye. And because of that, they decided to call off the dogs.
Their strategy got the ice cream on the shelves. Their unique flavors made Ben & Jerry's a hit, selling $9 million of ice cream in 1985, $20 million in 1986, and almost $240 million by 1999. In 2000, Ben & Jerry's was bought by the international company Unilever, which also owns Breyers and Good Humor. Both Ben and Jerry remain involved with the company today and take an active role in flavor creation and quality control. And they're not the only ones.
Flavor, cream, sugar, cherry, chocolate. Wow.
The quest for quality and fantastic flavors. In 2004, 1.58 billion gallons of ice cream were produced. And there are so many flavors that, according to the International Ice Cream Association, they can't keep count. And hundreds more are being developed every year.
In fact, opportunity never has been greater.
So what does it take to produce an ice cream product that will stand out in the vast marketplace?
Nothing is ever going to trump the fact that a good old scoop of ice cream is still going to be #1 for people to buy, enjoy, and eat.
Which is why companies maintain full staffs of scientists looking for the next flavor sensation.
In developing new flavors today, we have a department of about 35, many PhDs, engineers, food scientists that are working on new flavors, new concepts, even new shapes. So that process takes about at least 6 months today in developing a new flavor from concept all the way through to a marketplace. And so it's a full process, and about 35 to 40 people working on this continuously.
At Ben & Jerry's, their flavor process takes about 9 months, whittling down 120 concepts from research and development to a final 4 or 5 new flavors that will be introduced each year.
How many frogs do you have to kiss before you find a prince? It's about the same number.
Those that don't sell get sent to the flavor graveyard.
Have you looked in the flavor graveyard recently? It's well populated. It's flopped spectacularly.
Peanut butter and jelly.
Yep. Who wants to taste a peanut butter and jelly sandwich when they're eating ice cream?
We made a lot of it.
Sugar plum.
Yeah, that was bad. There's a lot of, failures.
Those flavors that do succeed require constant monitoring to maintain quality control.
And what he's doing is he's looking to see if he's got nuts evenly distributed throughout. And the bottom line is if you wouldn't sell it to one of your family members, it doesn't go down the line.
At Edie's Dryers, that job is left up to their taster, John Harrison, whose taste buds are insured for $1 million. And for good reason. He's got a golden tongue for taste. In 1982, after just 1 year on the job, Harrison was inspired to invent a masterpiece.
I saw the Oreo cookie, one of my favorites, and well, let's try that in ice cream.
He loved the new flavor that he called cookies and cream, but the marketing department wasn't sold.
The company saw that cookies and cream as, well, a little bit too juvenile as a flavor.
So it went into the filing cabinet, and the company went on to develop a new peach-flavored ice cream that was so promising they pre-purchased a peach crop in Fresno, California. Their goal, to release it that summer. Here's where the story takes a turn.
There was a freak hailstorm that not only destroyed the crop, but many of the trees. And so marketing came to me and said, John, what do you have over there in that filing cabinet?
What he had in the cabinet was cookies and cream.
And of course, it has grown to be not only the fastest growing new flavor in the history of ice cream, but it has been the #5 best-selling flavor for over 2 decades now.
So what's a day like in the life of one of the world's most celebrated testers?
And here we're looking for that even distribution throughout the package of the vanilla and chocolate.
Every morning, gold spoon in hand, he tastes up to 120 spoonfuls of ice cream made at the plant the day before.
The reason for the gold-plated spoon is because wood or plastic has a slight resin aftertaste. The gold spoon is part of the equipment of keeping a clean palate. Every morning, I've got about 75 flavors to work through, always starting with vanilla because that's the lightest flavor first. That's nice. Vanilla. And then work my way up to the heavier Bordeaux of ice cream, such as mint chocolate chip, black walnut, the stronger flavors. Wow.
With a rating system from 1 to 5, Harrison checks for 3 things: appearance, taste, and texture.
Chocolate fudge. Creamy. Smooth. Good eating experience. That's nice. Flavor note. Guttural, stronger down here. Your cherry, fruit flavor up here. You got 2 different profiles working with a cherry chocolate chip. This is my job. This is what I get paid to do every day, is to taste ice cream. We're all kids when it comes to ice cream.
But you don't need to have $1 million taste buds to rate ice cream. No matter who you are or what you do, ice cream is an enjoyment that's open to all. It's almost an American birthright.
Ice cream is an American symbol because we made it democratic. When ice cream came to this country, it was associated with the aristocracy. We took it and we made it into a treat anybody can afford.
Certainly other countries enjoy ice cream, but it's not as widespread. It's not found in everybody's freezer like it is in the United States. And it hasn't been embraced by these other countries in the way we've embraced it as one of our icons. It shouldn't be just mom, baseball, and apple pie. It should be mom, baseball, apple pie, and ice cream.